Hey, how's everybody doing this evening? This is very special. I'm pretty excited about tonight's broadcast, Monday Night Photo Party. Bunch of things going on. So, first of all, to everybody who's watching this evening on YouTube, um, this is first time that broadcasting our Monday photo party to YouTube. So we may have a few new followers this evening, and in fact, their comments will show up in should show up in the feed as well. And if you're watching on YouTube and you have no idea what the heck you've just tuned into or what you're getting a notification about, this is something we call the Monday Night Photo Party. On Facebook, I manage a group called Camera Easy, which is a group of people that have taken photography workshops, photography enthusiasts, just people in general that are interested in photography. And every week we get together, we talk about the previous week's photo challenge that we present. We talk about interesting things that are happening in photography. We share a little bit. We even have people come on live. Sometimes we have guests, and essentially it's just a fun way to get together and talk about photography. And for all of my Facebook group users that are on here, you guys all know the drill already, but for the YouTube folks, this might be kind of new. But the other reason that this is such a special event this week is that it's the last episode, last broadcast for 2020, and as such, we're going to be doing a bunch of different things that are going to sort of wrap up 2020, the greatest year ever. Obviously, I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but it's interesting. I made a post this week on my Facebook page about 2020 and how we've had this this once in a lifetime, we hope, once in a lifetime year where everything has changed, just socially, internationally, just travel, everything. I mean, just everything changed in 2020. But at the same time, there were all these really amazing little slices of gold that were embedded within this otherwise crappy year. And so I'm super thankful for a lot of things, including this group and including the opportunity to, including the opportunity to share a bit of myself with you guys, but also to get so much in return. And a lot of that has come through the live lessons that we do. These challenges have turned out to be, I think, really positive for everybody involved. And so 2020, although it was a flaming dumpster fire in a lot of ways, it was also pretty cool. Now, I'm just going to bring into the mix here. I received this calendar. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I received this calendar from one of our regular contributors, Kevin Crumley. And Kevin put together this calendar. And honestly, he had no idea that I was even going to be mentioning this. This is one of the bouquets I'm going to throw out this week, is this calendar. Now, all the images in this calendar that Kevin sent me, these are all images that Kevin shot in 2020. And, some of them are quite spectacular. They look and feel, and this looks and feels essentially like an Alberta tourism calendar. Very, very cool imagery, and really, really well done. And one of the things I was going to ask Kevin is, where the heck did you get this thing printed? But I mean, look at that photo. Isn't that a gorgeous shot? And Kevin's a great example of, I think, somebody who in 2020, for all the crappy stuff, Kevin's calendar really shows off the fact that there was a lot of really wonderful things that happened in 2020. it'd be interesting. And again, I haven't mentioned to Kevin that I was going to be doing this, but I don't know if he's got any of those available to sell. But if Kevin, maybe if you're watching, you can make comments in the Facebook group how people can go about getting them if they're interested. But it's really, like I said, really a one. Look at that cover shot. Isn't that incredible cover shot? Anyway, 2021 hopefully will be this way better year than this year. So what are we going to be doing tonight? Well, I've got a few things on the calendar for tonight, and the big one is an announcement that is long overdue. I should have done this a long time ago. I want to introduce to everybody. And I want to kind of make this announcement publicly for the first time here. And I think some of you might know this already, but I have asked one of our regular contributors, one of the most creative people that I have met, Tiffany Schaefer. And I know Tiffany's watching because I just saw her comments come up in the Facebook feed. But I have asked Tiffany to actually join the Camera Easy family as a contributor. So for those of you who subscribe to the Camera Easy website, Tiffany's going to now be doing some regular contribution, not only in the form of some lessons that are going to be posted in both in the regular and bonus content, but also Tiffany is going to be hosting some live lessons. So for those of you who are, already doing the live lessons, and I know there's a good number of you that are on here that have been on the live lessons in the past, but if you're doing live lessons, Tiffany will now be included in that live lesson lineup. So we're going to be working on some lessons, firstly around creativity, and we've already added that to the calendar. Tiffany is, like I said, one of the most creative people, and I'll tell you right off the bat, from a technical standpoint, understanding how the camera works and what ISO to use and what aperture to use and all that kind of stuff. No one better than myself. I'm going to tell you right now. I can kick ass when it comes to the technical stuff. Bottom line is I've played with every camera known to mankind, and so I kind of can do it with my eyes closed. But where I struggle and where I really need to work, where like I don't even enter the game when it comes to creativity. And so some of the things that Tiffany does, the energy that she brings when it comes to creative side of it, that's something I can't even, like, I'm not even in the game over there. And so Tiffany's going to bring her unique brand of creativity and her very unique, fun personality to this Camera Easy group. And some of you have obviously already met her and seen her online. And so the introduction doesn't need to be made. But what I'm really excited about is for you guys to get a chance to get inside of her brain, because as I said, that's not something that I can really relate to. I have a very what's the word? Very antiseptic, almost kind of logic-based view of photography and the camera, whereas Tiffany has this creative side. So as time goes on, hopefully we're going to add more lesson options from Tiffany. And you never know, I might reach out to some others of you in the coming weeks and months, and we'll see how this goes with Tiffany, and then you never know, we might have some other fun additions in the future. So that was the big first announcement. Second thing is I just wanted to give an update on what's happening with the Camera Canada 2021 Camera Canada book. So originally we had a deadline of Thursday was the original deadline, end of the year, end of 2020. We were going to have a cutoff point for submissions for the Camera Canada book so that we can in early 2021 produce the new follow-up version 2.0 Camera Canada Seasons, which would be the new book. Now, obviously, 2020 and the whole COVID and travel restrictions really threw a wrench into that this year. So I am extending the deadline. I don't know when that's going to be. I kind of tentatively have said end of March, but I suspect it may go a little bit longer than that. And the only reason I say that is, without people getting a chance to get out and do some traveling and, experience some interesting different things, it's hard to say, hey, you need to get your photos in by this time. The other thing is that 2020 was such an interesting photographic opportunity that we've played with this idea, and I think the idea came from the group, is maybe we should just make this book project a retrospective on 2020, and it'll be a time capsule of sorts for what's actually happened in 2020. And so I'm basically leaning in that direction as well. I haven't had a chance to discuss it with Tracy. And that's going to be a big part of this because obviously she plays a big role in the project. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, and I will put in the comments on this post, and I will actually make a separate post in Facebook and on the YouTube group. I will make a separate post with the submission guidelines and the submission form. I think some of you have it. If you are on the Facebook group, you can just go to the announcements. Go to the announcements tab at the top of the Facebook group. And in one of the announcements, there's actually a link for the submission form for Camera Canada. So I guess what I'm saying in a nutshell is, if you're going to submit photos for Camera Canada Seasons, go ahead and submit those. If you've got great time capsule photos that maybe don't have a seasonal reference, submit those as well. And, maybe depending on what kind of submissions we get in, we'll make a final decision on which way we want to go. But I really think that I'm leaning towards the whole 2020 thing. But any photo, and I said this to one of our regular contributors, she's actually a moderator on our group, Elizabeth Fries, asked me the other day, she said, do I go ahead and submit then if we're going to be changing the what the book's all about? Yeah, go ahead, submit it, because just because you were going to submit for Seasons doesn't mean that it also isn't relevant for a review of 2020. So yeah, I think if you're going to submit a photo, whether it sort of fits 2020 or whether it fits the Camera Canada Seasons, go ahead and submit them both. So that's the update on Camera Canada 2021. Another thing I wanted to mention, and I'm going to share my screen for this so that everybody can see it. So just stand by as I share my screen. I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to, oh, great. Somebody posted the link for the submission on Facebook. Great. So what I'm going to do here, let's just... I'm going to share this screen. Oh, stand by while I do these technical, interesting... There we go. All right. So there's my background. I'm going to just bring this tab over and we'll open this up. So this is a look at the dashboard on the Camera Canada page, or Camera Easy page. And what I wanted to show you was the our last time we got together, which was a couple of weeks ago. The suggestion was made by Kat Boynton and a few other people had made a suggestion that, hey, why don't we house all of these awesome photos that have been submitted for the different challenges? Why don't we house them somewhere so we can access them and see them and review them and all that sort of thing? So what I've done on the Camera Easy page is I have actually added a student gallery. Now, the way this I've got this gallery set up is essentially it's a random distribution of photos. So if I reload the page, We get a different random selection of photos from the group in a different order. And as you hover over the photo, you're able to see who the photographer is. And when you click on the photo, obviously it'll come up and you'll be able to see the photo full screen. So I think it's kind of cool that we have a place that these things can live. I'm just going to log out of the Camera Easy page for a second. Right now I'm logged in. But you'll notice that even if you're not logged in, so if you're not a member of Camera Easy, you don't have a membership or a subscription, I should say, you can still go to the Camera Easy page. And one of the things that you don't need any kind of membership or subscription to get into is this student gallery. So this is going to be the place where I'm going to take sort of the best photos every week, and out of every challenge, I'm going to take the sort of a selection of those images and post that in here. And I see that Tracy has linked up to the student gallery as well. So if you can get there very quick, thanks for doing that, Tracy. But again, I'm a sucker for thumbnails, and you guys know that from watching and being on here in the past. You know that sometimes I just like to scroll through the thumbnails and look at the overall images, and I really have enjoyed doing this with this student portfolio. One thing that I mentioned is that every time you load this page, you're going to see the images in a different order. And I did that really because, you know, there's a lot of images, and so I don't want people to sort of always only see the first few. So every time you load, you're going to see a different group of images. And again, as you hover over the picture, you're going to see the person's image. Now, I don't have every photo that's been submitted on the Facebook group. Not every photo's on here. I've sort of curated a little bit. Certainly I don't have as much on here as I need to, but I wanted to get it up and running, and then over time and as we go week by week, I'm just going to keep adding. I may end up having to put a search feature on here because we'll end up with literally thousands of images. But what I really love is being able to just sort of scroll through these thumbnails. And, you know, if I look at these and I think to myself, you know, a lot of these images that we're looking at on screen, these are people that in a lot of cases, for most of you, at a certain point, you really didn't even understand how the camera worked. And so to be able to see not only the quality of the image, the creativity, the colors, the shapes, and the skill that's on display is, I think, pretty amazing. And so one of the reasons I love looking at the thumbnails is just I love the hit of, the pops of color, the strong shapes, and the overall composition of the items. And, I would put this gallery of your images, really, I would put it up against pretty much, any photo website that's out there. I'm just super, super thrilled with it. So, so check that out, and would love any feedback on it once you get a chance to go through it. Super flexible on how we can set this page up. Lots of different things I can do. So any feedback would be super appreciated. But since I am in Camera Easy right now, I also one of the things I wanted to do this evening was update everybody on the new process for joining and booking and getting involved in the live lesson world that we've created, and again that Tiffany is now involved in, and I've got a couple other cool ideas lined up. So, I'm just chewing my ice cubes here. So I'm going to log into Camera Easy now. I've given myself a pro membership to Camera Easy, so I have access to everything that the website has to offer. Right now, I have, I think there's about 6 of you, not many yet, about 6 of you that have been testing and have got involved. And Curtis, I haven't forgotten about that thing we talked about. I haven't forgotten about it. I just didn't get around to it. I will maybe do that as soon as we're done this broadcast. But I don't want Curtis. I don't want you to think I forgot about you. But I've got about 6 or 7 of you currently that have been testing out the booking process, the new booking process. For all of you that have the 1-year memberships for the live lessons, I'm going to be sending out an email to you this evening with some new procedure information, how to get you involved again. I shouldn't say again, but get you involved on the Camera Easy page as opposed to through the other website. And for everyone else, if you're interested, I'm going to also be at the end of the broadcast this evening. I will provide you with a code that you can use to join up as well. A coupon code, that is. Okay, so when you go on to Camera Easy, your homepage looks like this. We call it the dashboard. And when you go down through the dashboard, you get down to the very bottom here, and you can see all the courses that are available for you to go through and work on. So, for example, if I go into bonus content, in the bonus content, I'm just going to scroll through here. You'll see that Tiffany's first post that she's made is she's done a tutorial on how to do cardboard cutout photos. And in her post, she has a video about how she did her ET behind the scenes. She's got some settings to use, preparation, concept, and then a whole bunch of samples here. Video how she did the Christmas silhouette, and she gets a little bit more into some techniques. So that's an example of what's on the page. But when we go to the live lessons page, which is only accessible to those that have the professional subscription, the professional membership, which I'll talk about in a moment. But when you get into the live lessons, the one thing, and I know Tracy is watching, and right now what Tracy's doing as I'm telling this story to you guys, Tracy's actually down on her knees with her hands clasped in front of her, almost like she's praying, and she's like super, super duper happy that we've gone this direction, because it's going to make her life quite a lot easier. So in the live lessons now, what happens is you can go into each one of the live lesson categories. So, for example, I'm just going to pick wildlife photography as an example. And when you go into the wildlife photography page or a live lesson page, you'll actually see there's a booking calendar that shows up here, a little description about the live lesson, and then there's a calendar that pops up, and you can look at the calendar basically however you like to look at it. You can do it by month. We can do it as a list. But if you're interested in booking that lesson, when you hover over the schedule, you will actually see a little description with the time and everything associated with that. When you click on it, you can actually go ahead and book right here, and it adds it says here you've successfully added the booking to your successfully booked the lesson. And when we go back to our dashboard, and this is my favorite part of this, is that when you're on your dashboard, all of your booked schedule or booked lessons actually show up in the in a list form for you, so you can actually see them. And if you decide that oh gosh, you know what, I've got something booked on that day, I'm going to go ahead and reschedule this, or I can go ahead and cancel the booking. So you can manage your bookings right here on the Camera Easy page, as opposed to having to go through an email chain. And I know one of the things that sort of we ran into a little bit in November and December was that people maybe thought they had something booked, or thought they had canceled something, and you know how things happen with email is that things get lost in translation. So this will hopefully solve that problem, and I think we've got most of the little kinks worked out of it. There may be a few here and there, but we'll fix those as they come up. But overall, I think it's working really well. Again, if I zip back to the live lesson page, and I just scroll down here, if you don't want to go through each one of these individual lessons and click on their calendars, you can actually go straight to a full live lesson calendar page in which you can see all of the available lessons for any given day. You can see all the lessons listed right here. And again, as you hover over them, you'll be able to see a description of that lesson. And if you want to book it, again, you just click on the book down at the bottom. It says you've successfully added that lesson to your booking, and you can continue going through week by week, and you can continue to book let's just click on, oh, that one is full there, so there we go, like that. So we'll book another lesson, and we will click on that guy, and we'll say book. And and so you can do that completely on your own. And again, when you get back to your dashboard, you'll see that anything that you have actually booked is now showing up in your list of booked events. So super excited about this. Super excited to have Tiffany on board doing not only some live lessons, but adding new content as well. So let's talk about the memberships. So one thing that I have made a decision to do, and this may not be the most popular thing for some of you, but it's, I think, the most economic and the most efficient on our end as well, is rather than selling individual live lessons, which was a bit of a nightmare if I'm being completely honest, but rather than selling individual lessons, what we're going to do is we're just going to include all the live lessons in the professional membership. So when you sign up for Camera Easy, and I'm just going to go to the sign up page so that you can see in real time what this would look like. When you go to the sign up page, and I'm just going to go down to the sales here. So you'll see that there I've actually have just 3 membership levels. So 2 of them have not changed, and these have been the same since we started this in 2018. There's a basic membership and a basic annual membership. So this is a monthly version. This one is an annual version. Obviously, with these types of subscriptions, there is a cost savings when you go annual, and but then there's also a professional membership. The professional membership gets you access to all the live lessons, and this way, we don't need to manage individual bookings. We don't need to say, okay, this person has this many, this person has this many, and all that kind of thing. Basically, when you have the professional membership, you're able to go on to the live lesson booking and just go in and book whatever you need to book. For everybody who is currently signed up through the 1 year live lessons for the 1 year thing here through Tracy. Obviously, we will honor that, and we're trying to figure out the best way to make the transition. And what I've actually done is I've created a coupon code for those people that have already paid for the year, essentially. I've created a coupon code. I'm going to email that out to you, and you'll get a chance then to re-sign up with that coupon code, and this way you don't end up paying twice for the same thing. So I'll send out a very detailed email. I've got it all ready to go, but wanted to introduce this first before we sent it out. So I will do that this evening, send out that email, very detailed how to get involved. And one of the Facebook questions coming up, so do you have to have a pro membership to book a live lesson? The answer is yes. So essentially, and I'm just going to use some people as an example, Garrett, Dave, Williams, Julianne, Crystal, who have really taken advantage of, and lots of others as well, that have taken advantage of the 1 year sign up. The cost per live lesson becomes very, very low. Whereas when we were selling them as one-offs, the administration cost at our end and the cost to you guys at your end was I don't think really palatable for anybody. And so what we've done is basically just rolled all of this into the full year professional membership. So I hope that answers the question. I know it's not maybe the most, I know there were some people that did like going sort of one lesson at a time kind of thing. But I think overall, this is going to be a better format for all of us. But I will love feedback on that. And if there is an opportunity and a demand for more kind of one-off lessons, I will certainly look at it. But as Tracy just said, anybody who's already in the live lessons will be getting a coupon code, and anybody who's in the live lessons already, I think across the board we've had very, very positive response to it. So certainly I think you'll really enjoy it. Also, don't forget that professional membership, not just the live lessons, but there's all the content that's currently on the site, and all the new content that's going to be added as we go forward. And my hope is that between myself and Tiffany and a few others, which again I haven't actually announced yet, we're going to be seeing a lot of new content going up on the Camera Easy page. And a couple things that haven't changed when it comes to the student gallery, when it comes to the buying guide, those things are still open, not just to the public, to anybody. You don't need to have a membership. And if you currently have a basic membership, nothing would change in that regard. You still have access to all the online content. The only thing you would need to upgrade for would be the live lessons. So if you're not interested in doing the live lessons, then you probably don't need to upgrade at that point. So anyway, so that's the update on Camera Easy. I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be a real positive step. And again, would love any feedback. Greg at tornadohunter.ca. Send me an email and let me know feedback if you're not comfortable making the comments on the broadcast here. I would love any feedback. It's interesting. Tonight's the first night that I've broadcast to YouTube. And you might be wondering, well, why the heck would he do that? Well, believe it or not, we have actually a number of people that have been really active on the live lessons, have been active in trips that we've done that aren't on Facebook. And so by posting to YouTube, hopefully reach a bit of a new audience, but also I want those people who aren't on Facebook. And I know you're thinking, gosh, who's not on Facebook? Turns out some people aren't on Facebook. So that's why we're going to YouTube. But the reason I mentioned that is I just saw Golden Gears just posted a question. Hey, I miss your Netflix show. Do you still chase tornadoes? Yeah, Golden Gears, we do still chase tornadoes. Here's been the problem, though. 2020 was kind of a not great year for storm chasing in the sense that we couldn't head down to the United States. And for the Canadian tornadoes, I was kind of sitting on the couch for a few of those. And but I did get this year was actually a banner year for storm chasing as far as photography is concerned, just not for tornadoes. But yeah, with this whole Camera Easy thing, it's given me an opportunity to sort of focus a little bit more on that and on photography as opposed to traveling for storm chasing. But thank you for the comment, and thanks for tuning in. Doris, I think, was asking a question about the 4-packs. I know there was a number of you who had purchased 4-packs of lessons, and certainly, obviously, we'll definitely honor those. We want to get you booked into those. I think what we're going to do going forward, though, is we're just not going to sell any more of those. Again, if you bought 3 4-packs, you were paying for the full year anyway, and so I know there was a few people that were in that boat. So again, we just want to kind of make this a little bit easier, make it a little bit more streamlined, not just from our end, but from your end as well. Lauren Boyle just made the comment, Curtis Fafard had a few good storm picks. Yeah, he might have caught the most photogenic tornado of all time in Manitoba this year, but I was an hour away or so. But yeah, I guess congratulations to Curtis. Pro subscription will be my late Christmas present for myself. That's a great comment. I love that, and looking forward to seeing. Unfortunately, I can't see right now who made that comment, but like hearing it. Anyway, so we've covered Camera Easy. We've covered Tiffany getting involved. I talked about the Camera Canada book update that we're going to be moving. I think, not 100% sure, but I think we're going to be moving towards a 2020 time capsule type book. I mentioned about the student gallery. And what I'd like to do now is I kind of want to let's add some little bit of fun into this broadcast. I want to talk about snowflakes. So yesterday we had a little bit of a snow. It was kind of a really light snow, which is, by the way, the perfect type of snow for photographing snowflakes. So I'm just going to pull up a different screen here for you to look at. And I'm just going to go right in here. And let's bring that over to my second screen. And here we go. Okay, so here's the end product. Let me just share my screen so you guys can see that. So here's the end product of the shot that I did last night. And basically what I want to do is I want to walk you through how I got the shot, what I did, the editing that was involved, all that kind of stuff. But a couple quick points about shooting the snowflakes. Number one, if you don't have a macro lens, which is a lens which allows you to get really close up, the photographing of the snowflakes will be incredibly underwhelming. I mean, really underwhelming. Even with a macro lens, and I was able to capture this shot. But I want to show you what the original shot looked like before I cropped it. Because, again, I think there's a little bit of misconception about how close you're going to be able to get. And sometimes we look at a snowflake that sort of lands on our mitt or something, and we think, wow, that snowflake is huge. But when you get your lens in nice and close and you get your shot, you quickly realize that you probably can't get all that close to the snowflake. Like we just, the camera technology just doesn't exist for us to get all that close. So I have a full frame sensor on my camera. On the full frame sensor, this is as close as I can get. So what I've done with my camera, and I'm just gonna grab it here for you so you can see. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can really get a chance to see what this looks like. So I'm using a Nikon D850 for this shot, and I've got a 60 millimeter. And by the way, this lens I bought in 1997. I bought this macro lens in 1997, and I think it's a good example of why people invest in good quality lenses, because good quality lenses should last you forever, or at least a good long time, unless you drop it or something. But what I've done with my macro lens for this shot is I've set the focusing window right up here. I've set the focus to the minimum. That's as close as I can get. I've set it to the minimum focusing distance. And then what I did is I moved the camera in towards the snowflake, which, by the way, was sitting on my arm right here. So I just moved the camera in until the snowflake was in focus on my sweater, and I was able to take the shot. Now, I have a full frame camera, so this is literally, I've set the focus point to its minimum distance, and I've literally moved in as close as I can get and have that thing in focus. This is as close as I can get to that snowflake with my macro lens. And it's, like I said, it's a good macro lens. So, essentially you look at that and you think, well, that doesn't look very close. And that's right, it's not. But when I crop the image, and so I'm just going to sort of do this in real time so that you can get a sense of what I did to edit the image. And then I'll come back. I'll come back to the photography in a moment. But once I've taken the image, I'll show you very quickly the type of editing that I did for this shot. So I'm going to go to my crop tool, and I'm using ACDC for this. You can use Photoshop, you can use Affinity Photo, really any photo editing software, but I'm using ACDC right now. And I'm just going to take the crop marks and I'm going to place them here. Now, even before I hit the crop, where it actually does the cropping, you can really get a sense once I put the crop marks up how little of the sensor of the camera I've actually used to shoot this image. This is a 45 megapixel sensor, but essentially once I've cropped away this much of the image, I'm probably only using 2 or 3 megapixels or 2 or 3 million pixels once I've cropped this image. And so you really get a sense of how much information you're losing and how small the actual snowflake is. But, unfortunately, that's as close as I can get with the equipment that I have. I don't own any extension tubes or anything like that. So this is literally as close as I can get. Now, one thing you need to understand from a technical standpoint is that even at this closeness, like as close as I am with this shot, I'm shooting with an aperture for this image of f/18. Okay, and at f/18, what's really incredible, and I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit so you can see this, but at f/18, this portion of the snowflake is actually quite sharp. It's very much in focus. And remember, focus is a distance. So, and great comment from Facebook. Yes, you have to use manual focus. You can try with autofocus, but there's absolutely, there's really no benefit of trying to use autofocus when you're this close. So you're using manual focus. And by the way, I'm not only using manual focus. I've got the camera set to manual focus, but I'm also slightly moving my camera or my camera in and out until I get that focus just right. I actually, after I did this photo, which was sort of sitting on my shoulder, I realized that my ability to hold the camera at the right distance, because the margin of error is so small, that I actually ended up going to a tripod and doing a little bit different setup. But in this case, I was trying to hand hold the camera. I actually had my shoulder against the wall, and I was bracing the camera against the wall so that I could get the shot. But you'll notice, even at f/18, The focus is the depth of field, the amount of the image that's in focus as a distance from the camera is minuscule. It's like so small, to the point that, remember, this is a snowflake, right? We're talking super small. This part of the snowflake is clearly in focus, whereas the far side of the snowflake is actually out of focus. That gives you a sense of just how sensitive the focus distance must be to get this snowflake even reasonably in focus. So you got to be really, really still. When I switched over to the tripod later in the evening, what I did was I use the live view. I zoom in on the image, do my focusing manually using the focus ring on the camera or on the lens, and then taking the shot. Now, even though I've got a good lens, I was on a tripod, because my shutter speeds are so slow and because I'm shooting something that's this small, I actually went to a timer. I went to a 10-second timer because the movement of pushing the trigger on the camera was enough to blur the images, to make them really unrecognizable as snowflakes. That's how much blur ended up in them. So by using a 10-second timer, by the time the camera actually shot, so I'd push the button and then it would go 1,000, 2, 1,000, 9, 1,000, 10, 1,000, and then it would fire. That 10 seconds is enough time for the camera to actually settle and have it not moving. Without doing that, getting sharp, crisp snowflake shots was almost impossible. So this was as good as I was able to get. This was actually probably my favorite one. And like I said, it is what I would consider to be reasonably sharp. This side is quite sharp. This side is definitely out of focus, but overall it feels relatively sharp. So I was happy with it. So once I've cropped the image, now I noticed that we are already in a conversation over here. Lorne Boyle, and I say Boyle like Boyle, has brought up the question of RAW, shooting RAW versus JPEG. So as a matter of fact, with this image, and I'm just gonna go double check here. You guys might be surprised on this. Let's just find out here. Let me just discard that for a second. So no, I shot in JPEG. I'm sorry. I thought maybe I might have shot this in RAW, but I did shoot this in JPEG. Essentially for a shot like this, I'm not going to really notice much difference between RAW and JPEG. There are times where RAW, probably makes some more sense, but for something like this, where I might use it here, might post it on Facebook. It's certainly not anything I'm ever going to print with. I probably wouldn't ever shoot this in RAW, but thank you, Lorne, for opening that wound that we will now all be talking about for the rest of the broadcast. But anyway, let's go back in and let's start this again and pretend that conversation didn't happen. So let's go over here to my crop tool again. So first step, I'm going to crop the image. Next step, I am going to go into my light equalizer. I am not. I'm not against Photoshop. I love Photoshop. In fact, I use Photoshop every day. But sometimes when I'm editing, when I'm just doing straight photo editing, some of the tools that are available in AC/DC, some of the tools I like better than some of the photo editing tools in Photoshop. The light equalizer is actually one of those items. So let me just quickly hit my light equalizer. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with it in AC/DC, you'll notice over here on the left side, let me just make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. Over here on the left side, I have a brightening palette, I have a darkening palette, and so I can actually adjust the overall brightness or darkness of the image, not in terms of the whole photo, but in terms of specific areas of the photo. So different sliders are going to affect different portions of the image. So where this slider over here, you can see that it's taking all the really dark bits and brightening them up without actually affecting the really bright bits. But I kind of want to make that outside a little bit darker. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to just kind of darken this whole thing a little bit more. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, Greg, that doesn't look very good, but I'm not quite finished. And let's just see here. I kind of like that. I think right about there looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to my Edit Brush tool, and I'm now going to be very selective in the area that I apply this brush tool. So basically what I'm doing is darkening some areas of the photo while not affecting other areas. So if I show you the original and then I show you what I just did, you can see that I've just sort of darkened a portion of it. Now, I was photographing this snowflake while it was sitting on my sleeve on my sweater, and you can see as we get really close to the image like this, you can see that all of a sudden we've got lots of maybe kind of like I don't know what the word is, but little bits of the sweater that are kind of not very attractive from a photo standpoint. So the next thing that I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use my repair tool. I'm actually going to take the Smart Erase tool. I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller. And I know I'm doing this fairly quick, but this is something that we do cover in the AC/DC lessons if you are using AC/DC, or we actually have lessons Photoshop Friday. But what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to use this Smart Erase tool, and that didn't work very good at all. So let's step backwards with that. And let's try some smaller strokes here like that. That looks better. Let's get rid of this guy right there. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around and I'm going to clean up some of the areas that I think are problematic for the image, that I think they're just a little bit of distractions. And I'm not going to get rid of it all. The goal here is not to make it look fake. The goal is to clean the image up a little bit so that some of these things that could easily be distractions are kind of eliminated a little bit. So I'm just going around the image, and I don't think that one's going to work. No, let's undo that. And you got to have a little bit of a steady hand here, but let's just see how that's not going to work either. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the Blended Clone tool, and I'm just going to go right in there. That looks a lot better there. And yeah, I might even clean up some of these little bits up here. This one's pretty noticeable. I'll get rid of that. And let's even try that guy there. So what I end up with is an image which is a little bit cleaner. And I haven't obviously done the whole thing. We can probably do that guy down here. That kind of looks a little bit better. Let's try another one here. Let's get rid of that guy. Let's get rid of that guy. And I could probably go through and do a few more. But essentially what I want to do is I want to have it maintain the overall look and maintain the overall look, but look a little bit better. And essentially that's all I did to it. So I'm shooting in JPEG. And by the way, this is not a black and white image. This is a color image. But I was wearing a black sweater, And so all the fibers, for the most part, are in that color scheme in sort of blacks and grays. And it's white snowflake, but kind of looks a little bit black and white, but it isn't. It's actually a color photo. So I've used the healing or repair tools in AC/DC to clean up some of the bits that were kind of obnoxious and standing out, and cropped the image and did a little bit of levels adjustment to make parts of the image a little bit brighter and a little bit darker. So that's about it. That's how I did that. And if you want to give it a try, like I said, you definitely need to invest in a macro lens if it's something that you want to do. Macro photography is super difficult. It's one of the hardest things to do. I spent a lot of time in my garage last night trying to shoot some bits of snow that I could find, and at the end of the evening, I ended up with a couple dozen photos of snowflakes that I kind of liked. There was this one. You guys can't see that. Hold on one second. So there was this one. I also shot on. I used a Coke Zero can. I used to collect some snowflakes, and again, you can see how small that snowflake is, but I was able to turn that into a fairly interesting photo. This was kind of a neat one as well, but again, they're very, very small in relative terms compared to that. So this is a cropped and edited version, and the original of that's how big this little cluster of snow was. So it's not the easiest type of photography to do. It's super frustrating at times, but when you can capture, at the end of the day, when you can capture a few interesting snowflake shots, again, this one, that's what the original looked like. Excuse my sniffling here, I got runny nose. But again, that's what the original looked like, and that's what my edited version showed up as. So yeah, it's kind of fun stuff. And if you're interested in a recommendation on type of macro lens to get, send me an email and I can probably send you off a link. So greg@tornadohunter.ca if you want to send me an email with a question, and I can send you off a recommendation. So let's get to, I'm going to just close that down. Let's get to the Facebook group, and I want to go over some of the awesome photos that have been posted this week or the last couple of weeks, and just a little heads up for the regular Facebook crowd. I'm not going to be covering all the photos that have been submitted. There's just far too many. But there were a couple people that I really wanted to focus on and show off their photos. So I'm just going to click on the photos link here, and as these images pop up, I'm going to hit a couple of them. So, first off, our friend Alex Krings from Germany posted this photo, as well as there's a couple others. Whoops, no, I'm going the wrong way. I might posted these shots in the time capsule category, our challenge that we currently have working on. And I just think these are awesome. And one of the things that we talked about with the time capsule is we talked about telling stories. We talked about, hey, when you look back on our images from 2020, 20, 30, 40 years from now, what's the story that they want to tell? And, a lot of the images that are coming through, love this image from Dennis Simpson. Now, I suspect I know why we can't see the face here, but regardless of that, we can see the mask. Regardless of that, we can see that, playing cards. We got some hand sanitizer on the table. It's a great story, and I think really and actually, kind of a cool photographic technique of showing the movement, that slow shutter speed to show the movement. So Dennis, I'm not sure if you're watching, but super well executed, very, very cool shots. Christine DePeel posted this one. We've had a few over the last a month or so that have been fairly similar to this, but what I love here is Christine is your execution. I love that we can see everybody's reflection in the window, and you've got Grandma just perfectly placed there where she's in a dark spot of the reflection so that we can actually see her really well. Super cool photo. But I wanted to get to, and the person I really wanted to focus on, at least initially here this evening, is a photographer that we don't see enough of. When she posts on our page, I'm always blown away by her images, and that's Angelina Guseva. So Angelina is in Manitoba, and this week she posted 4 just spectacular black and white images, and I love them not only for their execution as far as the exposure and the focus, but the composition and the general composition, the feel of the photos. I mentioned to Angelina that my favorite shot that she had posted was this one, and I just think it's such an interesting photo. I love the black and white. I love the composition here. I love the scuffy shooting close up for impact, and just really, really. Really wonderful shot, and Angela, I just think you nailed it on this whole little photo essay out at the lake. Now, this one's a bit of a butt shot. I still think it's cool, but and I really, really like the feeling of this shot as well. And this is one of those things when it comes to composition that it's hard to sort of put a label on it, when it comes to the composition. And in a lot of ways, this breaks a ton of rules. But there's something about the feel of the image and the look of the image that I really, really like. So I really loved these. I think they're a great little bit of time capsule. Here was another one that I thought was great, and regular contributor Shannon McCartan posted this one, and wow, that's pretty neat shot. There's something about the texture in hands that I really love. If you remember a few weeks ago, I highlighted a photo by Iris Workington that she posted of darning of socks, and I've mentioned it a few times on here because I still look at that image and just think how wonderful it was. And this image, to me, feels the same way, Shannon. I really love it. If there's anything I would do, I would go maybe just a slight bit darker. What I would like to see is these knuckles right here, which are fairly bright in this shot. If this image was even just a little bit darker, I think that the textures in there would show up really well, and I think it would just give it that extra little oomph. But I really loved that shot. So thank you, Shannon, for posting that. I wanted to go down to this shot. So one of our regular contributors and all-round awesome person, frontline worker, ER doctor, out in Sylvan Lake is Elsa B. Nell, and Elsa B. posted this shot and really a whole series of them, and I'll just sort of walk you through these. And they're interesting shots in their own right. But one of the things that I love about this is that well, a bunch of things that I love about it. So, first of all, I've had probably the most common question this entire holiday season, as far as photography is concerned, is, hey, Greg, I want to go out and take pictures of the Christmas lights. But when I go out to take pictures of the Christmas lights, when I go to take pictures of the Christmas lights, the lights either show up and I can see the Christmas lights and everything else is black, or if I go brighter and so that I can see some of the surrounding environment, well, then the lights are just overexposed and they're all white and you can't see the colors. That's because the exposures on the two different things are completely different. And so one of the things that Elsabie did when she took this shot is she took it not in the dark. She took it at twilight. And that's really the secret to shooting really great Christmas light shots, where you have some ambient light in the area. And in this case, the ambient light is the sky. But the other thing Elsabie did with this shot is the idea of framing. I think I look at the work that so many different people have done over this year, and so much growth over the year. And one of the things that brand new photographers do when they get a new camera, and they've never used the camera before, is the tendency is to want to move all the stuff out of the way. And what most people would tend to do when they're trying to do a picture of Christmas lights like this is they would say, okay, this tree's in the way. I'm going to go stand on the other side of the tree so I can get a picture of this stuff down here. And what Elsabie's done is she's used this awesome technique that we call framing, where she goes, no, I'm going to actually stand behind the tree and I'm going to get some of this stuff in the foreground, and that's what she's done up here. So I really love this shot, and I love it for the exposure. I love it for the composition, and I also love it because it's probably the type of shot that if you were trying to do it, for example, with a point and shoot camera, or if you were trying to do it without understanding how the camera works in manual mode, you'd pretty much be impossible to do. And so I really like that about this shot. But for those of you who are asking about, why the lights show up and everything else is black, this is the reason. This is the reason why we got some of that ambient light showing up in the photo. So very, very cool. So thank you, Elsabie, for posting that shot. And then the other one that I wanted to get to was this one right here. So this is a shot posted by Carol Patterson, and Carol took the online lesson that we did called Mastering Light, and I'm going to share with you a little bit of that lesson, and I'm going to use Carol's photo as a perfect example of this. So when we hear the term mastering light, it sort of sounds like Game of Thrones type thing, like somehow we have control over light or whatever. But that's not what it means when we talk about the camera. When it comes to the camera, what we're actually talking about is understanding when to make a picture brighter, when to make a picture darker. And when you understand that, when you have the ability with the camera to be able to adjust the exposure, brighter or darker, and more importantly, when you understand that you don't have to make the whole picture feel like it's correctly exposed. What the mastering of photography means, or mastering of light means, is that you have the ability to say to yourself, hey, you know what? I don't care that in this case the goose is way too dark. What I care about is I want to be able to get that mist that's being hit by the sunlight. I want to get that mist correctly exposed so that down in these areas I can see the mist. If this picture was any brighter than it is right now, if it was any brighter, we would probably be able to see the geese a little bit better, but we would lose that look of the steam rising off the water. And that's the cool part about this photo. So understanding, that you don't have to have the whole photo looking bright, that we don't have to have the whole photo looking dark. Again, every point and shoot camera and every photographer that's shooting images, when we get started, we think that what we want to do is we want to have the exposure over here in the middle where the picture looks great. It's not too bright, it's not too dark. What the master of light does, and what the whole concept of mastering light is, that I don't care in this photo that the goose is a silhouette. Doesn't matter to me at all. All I care about when I'm looking at the back of the camera, and all that Carol cared about when she's looked at the back of the camera when she did this shot, is making sure that she could see the texture in the brightest parts of the image. And so she went to a faster shutter speed, and then a faster shutter speed, and then a faster shutter speed, until the mist looked right. So that was kind of cool. That's the photos that I'm going to hit on from this week. And listen, I know there were literally hundreds of others that were posted. I'm going to add a lot of those to that student gallery that's on the Camera Easy page. But unfortunately, we just don't have time. I can't go through all the images. But I've tried to make as many comments as I could on those individual posts. But anyway, Carol, great shot. Shannon McCartan, great shots. Everybody who posted, really wonderful shots this week. I've really enjoyed looking at them. So that's kind of where I want to wrap up today. So a little bit shorter broadcast than normal, but wanted to share a few of those photos with you. Wanted to tell you about what's happening with Camera Easy with the booking of the live lessons. And I thought the way to wrap up, what I want to do to wrap up, or said this is where we're going to end, and this is kind of how I want to do it. I want to share with you some of my favorite images of the year. And so I'm going to do that. Now, I posted some of these on Facebook. Some of these I didn't post on Facebook, but I'm going to actually take you through my sort of, I guess, my list of my favorite images of 2020. So let me just gotta find these. So where did I put those? I put them up there. There we go. Okay. Oh, a little bit of dead air here. That's all right. Alrighty. So here we go. So like I said, I'm going to share with you some of my favorite images of 2020, kind of like my year in review. The year started out for me on a great trip up to the Northwest Territories, actually basically a year ago next week. So first week of January, group of us went up to the Northwest Territories. Our goal was to capture some Northern Lights, and we did get a little bit of Northern Lights, but we also had the chance to play with some light painting. And we found this great spot where there was a little camp that was set up, and there was a traditional teepee in use that was there for us, and we were able to photograph. And temperatures were minus 30 Celsius out, which is crazy. But we were able to play a little bit with doing some light painting. I had a number of our members that are in the group that were along for the trip. Stephanie Fraser was there with us, Becky, was along. Teresa Wilson was there. Kevin Crumley. Who else did we have? We had Kelly McCaslin was there as well. But anyway, it was a real highlight of the year, and it was pre-COVID, so we had no idea that this would be one of the last trips that we were going to be taking for the year. But we had this incredible opportunity to photograph this really interesting night sky situation. We did some light painting, played with some light painting with headlamps and with steel wool. And also, we had the opportunity, let me just scroll down here a little bit. We also had the opportunity to test out, she's going to be so mad that I'm posting this photo publicly, but there's Becky eating the largest burger in the Northwest Territories. We also had a chance to photograph the wood bison, and this was a large herd that we came across as we were driving across the north, and that was kind of a highlight for me. I'd never photographed the wood bison before, and as you can see, here's a picture of Kelly. It was cold. We were all bundled up, but we had a ton of fun. We had a chance to see some sled dogs. We visited Lady Evelyn Falls, covered with ice, and got a chance to photograph that. That was kind of cool. But then we actually finally did get kind of our holy grail situation. The day, by the way, this is what noon up at Yellowknife. This is what noon looks like at Yellowknife. That's the same thing there. But we eventually did get some northern lights, and these were photographed from right in the city of Yellowknife. Full moon was out, so that's what's lighting the foreground. And we had a real nice display of northern lights on our very last night of the trip. So it was a lot of fun. Good group was with us. We followed up. The next highlight for me, we followed up our trip up to Northwest Territories. I literally went from the airport, went home for I think 36 hours, and then got on a plane and went with another group down to the Dominican Republic. So we went from minus 30 to plus 30 in just a few hours, and we had a chance to visit a couple schools. That's Candace with a little puppy, lots of dogs, and I posted this photo on the Facebook group. But this was a real wonderful experience down in the Dominican. There's Wanda Hudson, another member of Camreezy group, and we had a chance to take this Tornado Hunter tour down to the Dominican, and it was a ton of fun. So we got to do lots of photography, lots of people photography, visited the school, but we also did some of the traditional things. We visited. We were actually timed our trip with a pilgrimage that was going on in a village called a big city actually, of Higüey, and this was a shot, one of my favorite shots from the trip, that. Of a church where this pilgrimage was happening, and I just really love the feel of that. And this is what the street scene looked like. So it was Dominican was a really cool experience. Every year for the last 6 years, I've taken a group of people somewhere south. We call it a working vacation. We take a group down south, and we've actually had a few people that have been on every one of our trips, and we get a chance to visit the community, use it as a week-long kind of lesson in photography and camera stuff. And Tracy just said, I think we all developed our immunity by visiting the market in the Dominican Republic. So we went to this market, and we were instantly taken from our very antiseptic, everything's clean and whatever world that we live in up here in Canada. And, we got sort of parachuted into this market in Higüey in the Dominican. And the first thing we see was this guy drive by with a pig on the back of his motorcycle. And as we went through the market, obviously we experienced a different, food culture than anything any of us had ever, experienced before. And I thought it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I could have spent all week there just photographing that market. I just thought it was such an interesting place. My wife, Candace, not so much. She's never going to a market again. I think Tracy's probably in the same camp. But I thought it was an incredible opportunity to shoot things that I would never get a chance to photograph. But anyway, it was a really interesting trip, and that market was. This is actually a photo by Stephen Shore, who's one of our members of our group. So Stephen took this shot, and I thought this was so cool. Little guy riding on the motorcycle, and just the sort of controlled chaos of the market scene, and it was something I always wanted to photograph. Sean Booth actually is one of our. He's been on every one of our trips. There's Tracy and Norm and me and Candace, and we did all sorts of stuff. Did some cave exploring, and it was just a really, really wonderful trip. I then had the opportunity at the beginning of February. I was speaking about storms and about tornadoes, about storm chasing. I was speaking at a conference that was being held in. I know this sounds terrible, but I was in Maui. And it was another highlight of the year. At this point, COVID still was not on the radar, but I got a chance to photograph something that I've never photographed and I'd always wanted to, and that was, honest to God, North Shore, Hawaii surfing, and that whole surf culture, which I just absolutely love. And had a chance to photograph all sorts of surfing shots, and obviously squeeze some nice shots of Candace in there as well. Had a chance to go whale watching. Now, for anybody who's ever been on a trip with me where we've done whale watching, so anybody who's been on my Newfoundland trip, the West Coast trip, out to even Mexico, we've been on lots of those trips down to Mexico, where we've gone out whale watching. So I've done whale watching in my lifetime probably 30 times, I'm going to say, and I've never been able to photograph a breaching whale. That's a whale that's actually coming all the way out of the water. And I finally got that chance this year in February. So one of the bright spots for me in 2020 was a chance to actually photograph breaching whales, and I got a chance to photograph a lot of them and ended up with lots of these whale shots. These are mother and baby, mother and calf whale. This is where they do their calving up in the area around Hawaii, and then they make the long trek up to the north coast the west coast of British Columbia and Alaska. But this is where they do the calving down in Hawaii. So it was kind of a really great experience, and my first chance to actually catch that. I also, another highlight for me was actually getting a chance to do the road to Hana. So they call it the Waterfall Highway, and that's because literally around every corner, and for those of you who know me a little bit, you'll know that I love photographing waterfalls. It's one of my favorite things. However, I live in Saskatchewan, where we literally don't have running water. So I have to go other places to get my waterfall shots. And I had a chance to do that on the Waterfall Highway, the Road to Hana in Maui. and photographed lots of moving water. Had a chance to play with my drone, and it was again a real highlight for me. And if you've never been, if you ever get the chance, that road to Hana is probably one of the coolest places on Earth, and definitely one of the coolest drives on Earth. And for me, one of the highlights was getting a chance to find this crazy, crazy cool critter. Candace stayed in the car, and I know not most, but I know some of you would have stayed in the car, but I thought this was pretty cool. This spider was so big that as we were driving down the highway, I actually saw the web, saw the size of the spider, and said, okay, I got to pull over, and I got to get a shot of that thing. So that was kind of cool. Now, at the height of the I'm going to say the height of the lockdown, so this was in early April, maybe it might have been mid-April or so. Yeah, it might have even been the end of April. But anyway, we were all pretty locked down and kind of feeling a little antsy. And so I had a chance to take a drive with my daughter and head out to Coderre, Saskatchewan, and visit everyone's best friend, Wanda Hudson, who owns the bar out there in Coderre. And she knew where we could find some owls and some foxes. And so Olivia and I drove out there, not in this vehicle, but we were photographing this. But Olivia and I drove out, and we found some owls in nests. And maybe here's how good the camouflage here. I bet you didn't see this little guy right down here. So that's Mama protecting her babe. And we were able to also photograph some foxes, which was kind of cool, little barn kittens, but definitely the foxes were the highlights. So these are little fox cubs or kits, I think they're fox kits, I think that's what they're called. But got a chance to photograph those, and so that was in April. And then I'm going to move forward to storm chase season. So, storm chase season was weird this year because on one hand, we didn't get a chance to head down to the U.S. I've done that for 11 straight years. So this is the first April, May, June that I didn't spend down in the United States. And so at first that seemed like, a really kind of negative as far as storm chasing is concerned. But it turns out 2020 was the slowest tornado year ever recorded by far. And so there was just no tornadoes. And so if there was ever a year that you would want to miss as a storm chaser, 2020 was that year. And so all of the storm chasing happened up here on the Canadian side of the border. And there were some really interesting photos. It started really for me with this storm in Alberta. And really gorgeous, beautiful storm. And we came upon this really interesting barn that had these rocking horses on top of the fence posts, which really made for an interesting composition. I thought that was kind of a great spot to be. The day or that trip was highlighted, however, by this incredible Mammatus display that was down near this. I think this was down towards like Nanton area. Nanton, Alberta is where this was. I also caught maybe my most viral photo of the year, which was the pot of black gold at the end of the rainbow, which I thought was kind of a neat shot and one of my favorites. Kind of pretty cool Alberta shot. Then the storm season sort of moved towards the Saskatchewan border a few weeks later, and I caught maybe one of the most interesting storm photos that I've ever seen in Saskatchewan. So this is a rotating updraft. If there was ever going to be a tornado from a storm, it would be this one, and it would happen right under right under the updraft. So time lapse of this whole thing is rotating, it's spinning counterclockwise. This is what we call an inflow band. This is an area of condensing water vapor that's being sucked into that updraft. So that's the warm, moist air at the surface being pulled up into that cloud. That's what's feeding the whole storm. So all the rain that ends up coming out of this storm is getting sucked in through this band of moist air that's being pulled in. So just a really, really interesting storm to look at. And here you can see a little bit different view of the same storm. But again, if there was ever going to be a tornado out of this storm, we can see exactly where that would happen, and it would be right down in this region. In fact, in this photo, as I zoom in on it, you'll actually see there's some cloud condensing down here at the ground. And I actually thought for a moment that we were going to see a tornado start to spin up right in that spot, because again, this whole thing is spinning counterclockwise. Super, super cool moment. That particular day ended with an incredible light show. We call this a mothership supercell. And again, it looks kind of like a spaceship, and it was branching lightning off in all directions. And so it was certainly one of the highlights for me of 2020. And if you lived in Manitoba, not that this was a highlight at all, but there was certainly, I'm going to say in many ways, a catastrophic series of storms that moved through western Manitoba. Anybody who's watching from Manitoba right now will be like, oh my God, I remember this. Bridges washed out, roads washed out. I think it was Rapid City, Manitoba, at one point in a 2-day stretch received 9 inches of rain. Like unreal, crazy stuff. And it also provided a lot of really great photographic opportunities. And this was, a lot of times when I post an image like this, people think that somehow we've photoshopped the color into the image. Not at all. This is exactly what it looked like. It's got that green, aqua green color to it. That means there's some crazy hail in there, a lot of rain as well. And frankly, this storm had a lot of tornado potential. In fact, did produce a tornado. Now, unfortunately, where it produced the tornado was back inside this big old green cloud where it wouldn't have been visible. And so it was kind of a scary situation, but fortunately, no one was hurt or injured. One of our awesome members of our group, Lori, had a chance to, she did get married, and I photographed her wedding and this was back in July. And I haven't photographed a wedding in a long time, so this was kind of new for me. It was a socially distanced wedding with just a handful of guests, but I was honored to be asked by Lori if I would photograph the wedding, and so thank you, Lori, for giving me that honor. I really enjoyed it. But then we got back into storms early July. This was a storm near Avonlea, Saskatchewan, and this had a really wonderful kind of mothership look to it. And the storm went on and produced this series of images near Bengoff. So this is actually the town of Bengoff. And this cloud formation that you're seeing in these shots here, these are called asperatus undulatus. So these are fairly unique clouds, fairly easy to identify, and really cool to photograph. They just have a really, really neat look to them. And if I zoom in on this, you can really get a sense of the textures that are being created by the different wind speeds that are happening at different levels of the atmosphere, which are creating these kind of gaps in the clouds. And it's very interesting to look at. And I've only actually ever witnessed these a handful of times in my entire career. So Also had a chance, got to see a couple tornadoes this year. Not many, but this was down near Assiniboia, Saskatchewan, just outside of Assiniboia. And what you're actually seeing here looks like a kind of fairly thin little tornado here, and for the most part it is. But this entire structure here was actually rotating and was kind of a parent circulation. And this was a visible condensation funnel within that parent circulation, but still a very, very cool experience. And one of the favorite things about storm chasing on the Canadian prairies is that the storm chase season up here coincides with the blooming canola season, kind of mid-July, early July, mid-July kind of thing. And this year was an incredible canola crop, and and a really active storm season. So the opportunity to photograph storms with canola and lightning in them was exceptional. This was probably the best visually interesting storm year I've had in Saskatchewan, probably since 2010. And this was one of my favorite shots. So this was down near, I think this was also near Bengoff. Bengoff had an active year this year. But this was one of my favorite shots of the year. So 3 lightning strikes. And by the way, those 3 lightning strikes, that's all actually one strike. So these all happen at the very, very same moment. The setting sun is providing this really cool pink hue into the clouds. And again, we got the cool yellow color of the canola in the shot. So, very, very cool moment for me. I was with another one of our members, Tara Funk, was out with me. Tara's a storm chaser from Regina, and she unfortunately isn't able to drive. And so whenever there's a storm opportunity that's close to home, she's like, "Are you going storm chasing? Because if you're going storm chasing, I would love to tag along." So we had a chance to do that. Here's another shot from that same day. I thought that was another really great one. You get a real sense in this one about the colors that are in the sky. And then we had, I think, the astro highlight of the year for most of us who are into that astrophotography stuff, and that was the Neowise comet. Now, the Neowise comet was for sure the highlight photographically for me. And why is that? Well, storms, I love storms, but I've photographed a lot of storms, and I've photographed quite a few weddings, and I've got a chance to travel south in the past. One thing I've never done is I have never had a chance to photograph a comet. So this was, maybe a once in a lifetime thing. So every opportunity I had, I went out and did that. This is a self-portrait that I did. This is actually like within half a mile of the Saskatchewan-Alberta border, right along Highway 1, the Trans-Canada Highway, right on the Saskatchewan-Alberta border. But as you can see, Comet Neowise was fairly close to the horizon by the time kind of midnight rolled around. This scene is lit by the rising moon. So the moonrise happened about 20 minutes before this shot was taken. And so that moon is actually lighting the field up and the barns and the building and giving a really nice blue tone to the sky. So it was definitely Neowise was a highlight for me. Then we had a chance to do some storm chasing. And my first storm chase I ever did with our friend Tiffany, we had a chance to head down to southern Saskatchewan. Tiffany joined me. Curtis was there, and a few others joined along. We did a drive, what did we call it? A ride along photo workshop type thing. And it just happened to coincide with a really great storm chase day. And we ended our night with some Neowise comet shots and aurora in the night sky. And what was really interesting about aurora throughout 2020, and I think if you go back through all of the aurora shots that got posted in our group over the course of the year, one thing that you're going to see that was fairly consistent was this magenta tone in the aurora shots. I don't know, science-wise, I can't tell you why that was the case, but every time I went out to shoot aurora in 2020, there was noticeable magenta tone in the sky. I have seen this once before, and I mean, I've literally shot hundreds of thousands of aurora photos. I've seen magenta in aurora once, maybe twice prior to this. Every time we went out in 2020 to photograph the aurora, there was this magenta tone. So that was really interesting, because I think and what's really cool about the magenta tone too is you can't see it with your naked eye. Like, if we look at the aurora on a night like this, when we were out there, I think this was the 19th of July or something like that, 12th of July, I think it was. Anyway, I can't remember, 12th of July. But regardless, if you looked at the night sky, what you could see was the greens, but your eyeballs couldn't pick up the magentas. That only showed up on the camera, and so that was kind of cool from a photographic standpoint. This is actually a picture of Curtis doing the modeling, and then we did I did a few shots of the Neowise Comet in Manitoba the night before we had a ride along photo workshop in Manitoba the following day, and it also coincided with a little bit of storm activity, and I caught a few interesting storm shots that I really liked. And I think we got Heather Grant and Charlene Jaworski here in the foreground. Now notice that I'm also standing in this shot. You might be thinking, well, I wonder who took this. I took this with my other camera. I had one camera doing a time lapse, shooting one shot every couple seconds or so, and just got super lucky and was able to capture lightning striking that shot right in front of the setting sun. So that was kind of a cool moment. And as I said, that same night, because we were out doing a photo workshop, was out shooting Neowise and ended up capturing a fireball in the same shot. So that was kind of a highlight of the year for me, was that shot. And then after the Neowise stuff settled down, at the beginning of August, I took my daughters and the three of us did a cross-Canada road trip where we drove from Regina out to Quebec, where my parents have a cabin in Quebec. They have a cabin on a little lake. It's a beautiful little spot, one of my favorite places ever. And we did this great trip where we drove across the country. We stopped at a place called Marathon, Ontario, and we found these waterfalls. This is not a park. This is just like, stop the car, park it at the side of the road, trek through the woods until we found where the sound of the rushing water was coming from, and came upon this absolutely gorgeous, amazing waterfall. Nobody there. This is like tourism minus all the people. It was just amazing, natural. No signs, no wood structures. This is just trekking through the bush, and it was and came across this. This is a little river that's feeding into Lake Superior, and absolutely one of the most stunning places I've ever had a chance to go to. So, and then we, as I said, we stopped a number of places along Lake Superior until we got to the cabin, and had a chance to photograph some hummingbirds, which you do when you're drinking whiskey on the deck, and big old snapping turtle off the dock. And that's my daughter here swimming in the water, and there you can see the size of the turtle. So that was kind of cool. And yes, I did use an ND filter, Garrett, for that waterfall. You had to definitely do that. This was kind of how the trip ended, which was the girls jumping into the lake with a gorgeous sunset and some cumulonimbus clouds off to the right-hand side. And that's what my parents, that's what the dock looks like. So you can imagine it is absolutely heaven on earth. It's a little slice of paradise. And yeah, that was kind of cool. Then when I got back, we returned to Saskatchewan at literally at the height of the Perseid meteor shower, which is every year, August 11th, 12th, or that range. And Tiffany and I went out and photographed the aurora and the Perseids, and that was kind of cool. And then I wrapped up tornado season or storm chase season with this little beauty. So this is actually a shot. I've actually opened up the sunroof on my car, and I'm actually shooting this image above my head, and that is a funnel developing out of a rotating updraft on a tornado-warned storm near Birtle, Manitoba. So for those of you in Manitoba, you probably know where Birtle is, but that's where this shot was done, and that was kind of the highlight storm-wise for me. But later that same night, I got the one shot this year that is the highlight of highlights for me. And the reason it's a highlight is I photographed something that, as far as I'm aware, is only the second time in Canada that it's ever been photographed, and the most northerly capture of this phenomenon that's ever been recorded on Earth. This is a lifelong, ever since I've had a camera, desire to catch these things. When I first heard about it, I actually thought it was a joke. I thought it was a myth. But I photographed something called sprites. And the sprites, you'll see, this is a closer up version of them. So these sprites, these are called carrot sprites because they're kind of shaped like a carrot. Sometimes you'll see sprites described as being jellyfish, because there is a type of sprite called jellyfish sprite, which literally look like jellyfish. That's not what you're seeing here. These are actually carrot sprites. But as you can see, they have a loosely arranged, they are in a circle, and they are directly above this thunderstorm. So this is actually a thunderstorm, and that's lightning. Now, the lightning is way overexposed in this shot. And this lightning is about 175, maybe 200 kilometers away from my position. This is actually out over Riding Mountain National Park and Lake Winnipegosis in Manitoba. The storm's actually out over the lake at this point. To see sprites, you need a whole bunch of things to happen. First of all, to see sprites, you need to be really far away from the storm. The sprites actually happen at about 70 kilometers in the atmosphere. That's how high they are. And they happen over top of thunderstorms. Sprites essentially are electrical discharges, exactly like lightning is. And if you're too close to the storm, well, you can't see them. They would be directly overhead, and likely you're going to be having a view that's obscured by clouds. You're just not going to be able to see them. So you have to be very far away, 150 kilometers, 200 kilometers, something like that. But the problem being 200 kilometers away from a storm is rarely do you get a situation where you can be that far away from the storm and actually be able to still see the storm and have it not being obscured by trees, have it not being obscured by clouds or anything else. And so it's a fairly unique situation to have that combination of things. And then throw into the mix a little bit of northern lights, a little bit of aurora. These sprites happened at 52 degrees latitude. And as far as my research is, I've got a couple people that are looking into that, who know a lot more about the meteorology than I do. But it sounds like at first blush that these are the most northerly sprites ever captured, and I think that's pretty cool. Another thing that's really cool about these is that prior to about 1995, people really thought this was, they didn't really believe that this was a phenomenon, that it was kind of a bit of a myth. And that's just because the technology didn't exist to be able to capture them on film. And now that we have digital technology and much more sensitive cameras than the film that was being used back then, we can now actually be able to capture them. And so this was definitely a highlight for me. And if you're interested in more information about the sprites, next time we get on one of those live lessons, you can ask me about it, and we can do that. I photographed another wedding at the beginning of September, another socially distanced affair. And then the last trip of the year, well, COVID took a little bit of a dive in numbers at the, kind of in August. And we kind of thought, oh, you know what, we're out the other side of this thing. And the numbers were nice and low for a while. We took a group. I had to cancel the trip up to the Yukon. Yukon wasn't allowing people into the territory without a 2-week quarantine. And so we shifted the trip, and instead of going up to Yukon, we went to the northern tip of Vancouver Island, to a place called Port Hardy and Telegraph Cove. And the group that went up, we actually spent that time photographing black bears, some of which were fishing in the shallows as the tide came in, as the tide went out. And some were getting a little bit too close. That's our group, with the bear kind of checking us out. But it was a great opportunity to photograph the black bears. But we also had a chance to photograph a whole bunch of other cool things, like the sea otters. You can see that Becky's got her high-end camera gear out. But she is sporting a Tornado Hunter hat, so I can't really complain too much. So we had the otters, sea lions. These were the tents that we stayed in. We stayed in this camp out on an island, kind of hard or a soft-sided tent type thing, and we toured around in this really cool Zodiac with our life suits on, and photographed the killer whales, the orcas. Ate our food outside, and got a chance to witness some pretty cool sunsets. And then we had a chance to go a little bit further inland into Knight Inlet and photograph grizzly bears and seals. But the grizzly bears were definitely the highlight of the trip. And here you can see Mom with a couple of her cubs feeding on grasses in the foreground. And then we also, of course, had a chance to photograph some bald eagles, and that was right. The Pacific white-sided dolphins were doing their thing. That was kind of a cool. They were swimming right beside the boat, and they would jump up and check us out, and we were photographing them. Salmon were spawning, and we were trying to capture them jumping out of the water. That was also a really neat moment. After that trip, by the way, Coastal Rainforest Safaris was who we used, and my plan, COVID allowing, my plan is to do another trip up to Vancouver Island this coming September. Obviously, a lot is going to depend on what happens with COVID, but that's the plan at the moment. And then anyway, from that trip, my year kind of wrapped up. The last opportunity I had to kind of go out doing some shooting was out at the corn maze, out at Happy Hollow, where Tiffany hosted a group of us, and we went out and we photographed a little bit of aurora, and we did some light painting, and I think we talked about that on the Facebook group before. So that's kind of my year and some of the highlights of my year in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed my little retrospective. One of the comments that was made on our Facebook group was, we don't get a chance, Greg, to see a whole lot of your photos. And so this was my opportunity to share some of those with you. And I hope you enjoyed them as much as I enjoyed taking them. So with that, I am going to wrap the night up. And want to again mention that everybody who is Currently doing live lessons on the 1 year schedule. I'm going to be sending you out an email very shortly this evening with the information as to how to go about transferring that same membership over to Camera Easy Pro membership. For everyone else, I'm going to make a post on Facebook with information again how to get signed up with a coupon code. And Tiffany's on board. Again, thanks, Tiffany. I know you're watching, and thanks for all the kind words that you're all sharing with Tiffany about her getting on board and providing some content and doing some live lessons. And to everybody who's been posting photos, not just in this current challenge, the time capsule challenge, but in all the challenges all year. Awesome work. Great stuff. Can't wait for more of it in 2021. And again, for all the people who are tuning in for the first time on the YouTube channel, a little bit different than maybe what you were expecting. You were probably expecting to see more sort of storm chasing stuff, but I wanted to share my passion for the learning side of it, the photography side of it, as much as the storm chasing. So with that, and you know, for Candace and for Tracy and for Tiffany, I want to say thank you to all of you for again being part of this crazy journey I'm on. And gosh, I hope 2021 turns out a lot better than 2022 from a health standpoint for everybody. But again, for me, even in this crappy year, there was a lot of nice highlights. And I should also let me just last thing, I promise, to everybody who passed on their well wishes to my mom, who is seemingly recovering from stage 4 lung cancer. Thank you guys so much for all the kind words. I know it meant a lot to her. She's in the group and she does follow along. So I know she read all of those comments. So thank you guys for doing that and sharing those thoughts. It's been an awesome year, and can't wait to get right back at it. And yeah, I guess I'll wrap it up there. So thanks so much, and you guys have a great night.